Hi everyone, I am Colonel Shantanu Roy from Fearless Leaders. I am back again with another of the actions that was being carried out by our esteemed army. Now you have seen, as always, India has crushed Pakistan in the military arena convincingly, be it 47-48, 65, 71 or the Kargil. Here again today I'll be talking about the Siachen Glacier, where India has tactically and also strategically won over Pakistan and captured and are occupying the strategic heights at Siachen Glacier, which is the highest battlefield in the world. So you will ask me, where is Siachen Glacier? The Siachen Glacier is located in the eastern Karakoram range at a longitude of 35.421 north and 77.109 east, just northeast of the point NJ9842, where the line of control or the LOC between India and Pakistan ends. At about 76 kilometers, it is the longest glacier in the Karakoram range and the second longest in the world's polar areas. It falls from an altitude of 5753 meters above sea level to about 3620 meters at the base. The entire Siachen Glacier, with all its major passes, is under the administration of the Indian government and lies in the territory of Ladakh. The strategic importance of this area is basically, if it was not in our control, Pakistan and China would have a long common border. Though Pakistan claims that the Siachen Glacier is under its control, but tactically, the Pakistan army has its areas only on the western region of the Saltoro Ridge, and the posts are at 3000 meters only, and the Indian posts, that are about more than 100 of them, are at the highest points of 5000 plus, which are quite inhospitable, but then it overlooks the Ladakh and Leh region and also the Karakoram highway. This is also called the third pole, and the literal meaning in Ladakhi means Siachen is the bed of wild roses. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not so, because the temperatures there dip down to -50, or even at times the peak of winters it is -70. So you can understand, normally even if it goes down to 0 degree centigrade, what is the condition of that terrain. The major passes from north to south are Siala at 5589 meters, Bilafondla at 5450 meters and Kyongla at 5689 meters. The average winter snowfall is more than 1000 centimeters, that is about 35 feet, and all the tributaries joining up conjure up an area of about 700 square kilometers. So you can understand how big and vast is this glacier, and also why we need it strategically. So why is the Siachen Glacier so vital to us? What is its strategic importance? Why do we have to stay in such inhospitable conditions? The Saltoro range, which overlooks the area of Gilgit and Baltistan of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, is overlooked by this ridge. Also, it guards all the routes which income into the Ladakh valley. It overlooks and dominates the Siachen Valley, which is of tactical importance in that area. Also, it is close to the Karakoram Pass, through which the Karakoram highway passes, connecting Gilgit-Baltistan and the Xinjiang province of China. If this Siachen glacier was not in our dominance, gentlemen, like I said, India would be at a strategic loss, because Pakistan and China would have a common border for quite a distance, and these passes would have easy access for trade, logistics, and also for military tie-ups between these two countries, which are our not so friendly neighbors. So, keeping all these points in mind, India undertook Operation Meghdoot to capture these heights, or the heights of Sila, Kyongla and Pelafontla, and also the height at Indira Call. Pakistan already had an villainous attempt, or had already planned its Operation Ababil, which was to take on and climb up onto these heights. The factor which assisted them is that their side of the territory has got less steeper slopes, while our side of the terrain had murderous steep climbs, making it thus difficult for our army to get onto these ridges and to these heights. So the bone of contention, that is Siachen, was basically brought into the light of conflict, because after the Kashmir agreement of 49 and the Shimla agreement of 72, no clear demarcation was given on the Siachen glacier, and like I said, the line of control ends at the point NJ9842. After that, this barren tableland or the glacier was anybody's property. Pakistan started showing it in its maps, which were also with the Americans, the English people, and everywhere. As their slopes were lesser steep, they also let expeditions go onto this glacier. In the 70s and 80s, there were many expeditions from Germany and Japan which were going onto these ridges. This was discovered by Colonel Narendra Bull Kumar, who was the commander at the High Altitude Warfare School at Gulmarg. When he led an expedition, he found that Pakistan was letting expeditions onto this ridge from this side. They had led an expedition of the Japanese. This, when found out, was reported to the DGMO, who immediately took action, and Lieutenant General Premnath Hoon, who was the General Officer commanding of the Western Army, was given the task of taking on the ridges on these hills. So, when General Hoon started his planning, he found out that these ridges were at heights which were unconducive for human attack. Forget about their staying and holding them. He planned it out so meticulously, and worked out the winter clothings, the weapons, and the mountaineering equipments that were required. Now, these equipments were not available in the Asian countries. They had to bank for these equipments on the European countries, and a firm in England was tendered for supplying these equipments. At that point of time, it was found out that this firm was also supplying a large amount of such equipment to the Pakistan army, and it was a shocking news to them. And when our intelligence reports were studied, it was found out that Pakistan army had already planned out its Operation Ababil to take on these four major points and create their posts on these strategic ridges of the Siachen Glacier. Immediately, these equipments were bought at a faster pace and plannings were carried out. It was found out from the reports that Pakistan planned to launch its attack somewhere between the 14th to 17th of April. So, Operation Meghdoot, which means Operation Cloud Messenger, which is a poem by the famous scholar and poet Kalidas, was launched, and this was planned so meticulously that it was launched on the 13th of April, a couple of days prior to the operation by the Pakistan army. So when the Pakistan army started moving on, they found out that India had already flown its flag on the strategic heights. So this is how we strategically and tactically outbid them to reach the glacier. I will briefly explain how General Hoon planned out the whole activity and how the major ridges were taken on and how Pakistan tried to thwart it, but their attempts were in vain. Operation Meghdoot was planned and launched on 13th of April 1984, which is the day of Baisakhi and a lucky day. So that was the day it was launched, and preparations were made, and Saltoro range or the ridge was given for capture to 26 Sector Commander Brigadier Vijay Channa, who launched his attack between 10th of April to 30th of April, and they took over this ridge and flew the Indian flag onto this height, and this was the first height which was taken over by the Indian army. And Pakistan, when they started their march towards this ridge, found out that it was already taken over by our troops. The Air Force also helped us in the planning and execution of the first phase of Operation Meghdoot, and IL-76 and AN-32s were put into action to drop logistics and weapon and also manpower onto these posts. The choppers that were used were Mi-8s and Chetaks of our Air Force. They constantly carried out recce's and sorties to help out the brave soldiers of 26 Sector to take on this ridge of Saltoro range. The units which took part in this operation was a full battalion of the Kumaon Regiment and units from the Ladakh Scouts, and Lieutenant Colonel, later Brigadier D.K. Khanna, moved on foot to put his foot onto this range and flow the Indian flag. In the next phase, Bilafontelah was taken over by troops under the command of Major R.S. Sandhu and Captain Sanjay Kulkarni. So, when on the 17th of April, the Pakistani armies launched their operation, it was found that about 300 of our men were already placed on Siala, Bilafontelah and the Saltoro Ridge. And by 1987, the Gyongla was also taken over. The first Indian flag was flown on the Saltoro Ridge, and all the strategic heights were under our control. So, by 1987, when Gyongla was also taken over by the Indian Army, Pakistani had to suffice and be satisfied with the lower slopes or the western slopes of the Saltoro Ridges, which were at 3,000 feet and overlooked by our Indian troops. And after this, the complete posts on both the sides were fortified and made permanent, and this inhospitable terrain became the battlefield for both these armies, and they have been holding it without giving an inch of land to each side. And India has the strategic importance. But between 84 and 87, Pakistan has been launching attacks and trying to fire onto these posts, which have been effectively thwarted off by our brave troops who are fighting it out to keep control of these heights. In his memoir, General Pervez Musharraf has written that Pakistan lost about 985 square miles and India has gained a strategic victory in this glacier. The operations between both the sides continued, like I said, from 84 onwards till 87 and 89. And a post called Qaid, that is the Qaid-e-Azam Jinnah. Basically the name came out from Qaid-e-Azam. This post was captured by Subedar Major Honorary Captain Bana Singh, who got the highest of the gallantry award, that is the Paramveer Chakra, because he did a daylight frontal attack and captured this post. And this post is the highest post at 6,543 meters. And due to his bravery, the post Qaid has been renamed as Bana Post. And also in 89, another attempt to recapture it by, at that time, Brigadier General Pervez Musharraf, who later on became the Chief of Army Staff and later on the President of Pakistan. He had planned an operation in that area which was effectively thwarted, and the Pakistan army was beaten back and sent down. So today, India controls the Sila Pass, the Gyongla, the Saltoro Range, and also point 9842. The AGPL or the advanced ground positions roughly run through the Saltoro ranges from point NJ9842 on the Indian line of control to near Layongma River, Gyongla, Gyong Kangri, Chumik Kangri, Bilafontelah, and through Bana Post to Saltoro Kangri, Ghent Kangri and Sila to the India-Pakistan-China tri-junction northwest of Indira Call west to the Sino-India line of actual control. The peaks and passes under Pakistani's control are the Gyari Camp, the Chokozlisa, the Baltoro Glacier, the Korwe Saddle, the Baltoro Mustaq, and the Ghasar Broom, which are lying west of our AGPL. So this is basically the tactical layout of the glacier at this point of time. Now that India has taken over the ridges on the glacier, which is the highest battlefield, there is no official data on the deaths that have taken place either on the Indian side or the Pakistani side during this operation. But more than 900 odd Jawans have died due to the inhospitable terrain. The temperature there is at minus 70 degrees, where water freezes. You are asked not to take a bath. Even your eggs become so hard that they are as hard as the golf balls. You cannot break it. Food cannot be cooked there. Pre-cooked food is airdropped in cans and tins. Tenure of each person is not more than 90 days. You are not allowed to shave, because if you have a cut or an injury, it takes many more days extra to recover and the cut to heal. Weapons do not fire well if not maintained and kept at the optimum temperatures. The clothing required there is of a special type. It is not the normal clothing which are put on at the mountains or on high altitudes, because this is not just high altitude, it is super high altitude, which are at 5,000 meters plus. The air is so rarefied that breathing becomes difficult. Also, the helicopters or the choppers that come down to drop the logistics or the supplies have a ceiling of flight or a height till which it can only take on, and fuel consumption is much more. The wind chill factor is also there, which makes the temperature even low and the cold more biting. Frostbites are very common, and if exposed to the weather, you tend to get frostbite within milliseconds. But despite all these vagaries of nature and the terrain, our army is still holding on to these posts, and training is still carried out on these posts, which are really commendable, because unless you train and stay fit, it will become difficult for our brave men to keep holding on to these heights. So despite a daily expenditure of more than 1 crore being spent on the troops that are holding on to these posts, India is holding more than 2/3 of the glacier, and for this our army really requires a salute. So today we are holding on to these glacier because of these brave men who are guarding the frontiers, and we can sleep peacefully in our homes. Jai Hind.